Hi, it's Jeff Knepper with Flow Software. I want to walk you through how to build templates inside of Flow's config tool. On the right-hand side, you'll see a template tab, and within the template tab, I can right-click and create folders for organization. I can also create a new template folder. Anything that's part of the template will be blue. I can continue to create folders, or I can also use the flow zone, which you now see is on the right-hand side. Anything I pull out of the flow zone and bring over will automatically be blue and be part of the template that I'm creating. So my goal here is to create a template that will effectively model a power meter. Power meter is going to be made up of a handful of tags that are going to be linked to a metric. Those tags will not just be tags, but also be measures. So taking the raw data that's part of the tag and also then aggregating it into either a 15-minute period or an hourly period and some additional measures that you'll see me create. So the very first step here is for me to start to create all of the tags that I want to have as part of my template. I can default those engineering units if I'm going to be doing a lot of the same kind. And I do that across the top defaults bar. You'll see across the very top of the center part of the screen, I have an engineering unit of volts as well as a numeric format that includes 3 decimal places. And so all of the tags that I'm creating right now will have a volt as a standard unit of measure and will have a numeric format with 3 decimal places. I can open up any of these individual tags and change that as necessary, as you just saw me do with the power tag, and I'll do that again here with the energy tag. Notice that the retrieval section is currently blank. I have not linked any of these tags to an actual data source yet. We'll do that here in just a bit. But it's important for me right now that I just get this model built or this template built the way that I want, and that includes some measures. So I've got this concept of a raw energy tag, but I also want to know every 15 minutes what's the total amount of kilowatt hours that I've used. Now I know that energy in kilowatt hours is going to be a totalizer. So I'm choosing the aggregation for counter, which is automatically going to handle a totalizer tag and give me a total value over 15 minutes, or a total change, I should say, over 15 minutes. Power tag, I'm going to create an average for 15 minutes, as well as go ahead and create a min and a max for this. So all I do is take that tag, drag it over to the flow zone, and drop it on the appropriate KPI measure as far as a time interval. Now, the reason I'm getting 15 minutes instead of 1 minute is that on my calendar in the toolbox, I've gone ahead and said I want 15 minutes to be my minimum amount of time when I create a minutely measure. I could have this as small as 1 minute. In that case, then I would take the 1 minute and create a 15-minute or a 10-minute or a 5-minute from it. All right, creating some more tags. This is a power factor ratio. Now that I have this tag created, we're going to make some measures from it as well. So as I'm creating these measures, I'll just explain, if you haven't seen the capability of Flow to do a projection into the future, what happens within Flow when we create this, essentially this setup or this template. So we've created a 1-hour average. The next step is to drag this measure down to the calculation and create a range of those averages. So in this case, a 24-hour moving average. So I'm just going to change the property of that hourly measure to say bring back an array of values from a range and bring me back the previous 24 values. How do I handle that array of values? I want to take an average of them, and now that is going to be the output of this 24-hour moving average measure. So every hour I'll get a new 24-hour moving average based on the previous 24 values of the 1-hour average measure. Now I'll take that 24-hour moving average and bring it down to the calculation, and this is now going to be the base for what I'm going to project into the future. So using a flow projected calculation, I'll be able to say, look, 8 hours into the future, and use the previous 24 hours average to tell me where I am likely to be 8 hours from now based on the 24 hours of data. So with that configured, I've now got my power factor ratio tag, a 1 hour average KPI, a 24-hour average moving KPI, and a value that tells me the likely value 8 hours from now. All right, we'll add a couple more tags, a frequency tag, and then from there I'll also create some amperage tags. Okay, so with my tags now all created and some measures and calculations created as part of them, I'm now ready to add some model attributes to this template. So essentially, when I deploy this template, I might want to create multiple numbers of power meters. And when I do that, I'm going to want to understand how I am going to instantiate the names for each of those power meters so that they're unique. So if we look at the naming convention established by my organization, I've got an area number, a panel and a number, a circuit breaker and a number, and a power meter and a number. A1, panel 1, circuit breaker 1, power meter 1. So I want to model that namespace in the instantiation of this template. And Flow gives me the capability to do this with flexibility by using attributes. A model attribute is just a way to link metadata to every instance of this template. And so when I name this, I'm going to insert into the instantiated name model attributes of each individual instance of the template. Now to call that in Flow, I use a model attribute that's contained within square brackets. Those model attributes live here in the attribute folder of the toolbox. And I'm just going to drag the area and put it over here on the power meter base. I'm going to do the same thing with all of the other model attributes that I would want associated with this instantiation. So I'm setting myself up right now for future success, assuming that later on in my project I'm going to not just deploy an instance of a power meter, but I'm going to actually deploy this entire structure with the folders included. And so I'm taking a little bit of time up front to go ahead and just get everything set up the way that I will want it to be able to use it later on. So one of the fastest ways for me to do this is just to start dropping the model attribute placeholder text in throughout this naming convention of my instantiated name. You'll see me do that here in just a second. Creation of new model attributes is easy. I just need to add it to my attribute toolbox, and then I can just drag it over. You will see this concept that model attributes can be inherited from their parent folders or can be individual values at this level. So my power meter base metric is inheriting the area from the folder above it, but the power meter number is being added specifically to this metric. So now I'm just linking from my model attributes down below. I'm linking the values to appear inside of the instantiated name when I deploy this template. Okay, so my instantiation is now ready from a naming perspective. I'll be able to deploy this out as a model, as a project over to my model. So think of this as maybe my template library is living on one Flow server, and I've got a site that is on another Flow server, and I'm going to eventually deploy this project out to that site. I know that site's namespace. It's here inside the historian. What I want to be able to do is deploy this out to the site and not have to later on link tags from the historian to my Flow instance. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring one tag over and see the naming convention, and then figure out how we can replace the unique parts of this name with model attributes. So for the area number, the panel number, the circuit breaker number, and then the power meter number, I'm going to reference, instead of having to hard code to a tag every single time for every single power meter, I'm going to instead reference the model attributes that are unique to the instance of this template and just call them into the tag path. So all I have to do now is take the first part of this tag. So you can see that the tag is very generic until it gets to the amps name. Amps part of the naming of the tag or the path. So now we can just copy, once we have it right, we can copy all of the name path other than the amps, and then we'll be able to just paste that on top of all of the other tags. Just setting up the link over to the correct database. And then I'm going to come in here and just change out the front part of the tag path. And I'm going to do that for each of the tags that are part of this template. It might seem like a lot of work to get this set up, but the amount of work that I'll save long term is quite impressive. So we'll go ahead and map over another one of these amps, and then I'll just speed this up, and I'll take care of it here and then come back and we'll be ready. Okay, so all of my tags have now been mapped to the namespace of the historian. I've moved my metric down to a folder, and what you just saw me do was just drag that across from the template to the model, and I'm telling it to instantiate 5 of these power meters. That the area number, the circuit breaker number, the panel number are all 1, and that I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 PM numbers with a double-digit format. And so now that it's been deployed, what we have are 5 unique metrics, each for a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, and a number 5. Power meter. All of the tags are showing, and we'll use the power tag to show the unique mapping to the correct tag in the historian. So there you can see the tag path is using the model attributes. I've got to come back to February where I have data. And for power meter 1, there's the current power. Let's go down to power meter 2 and bring that power over. And we'll continue to do the same thing for each of the 5. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here and rewind it a bit. I wanted you to see the process of instantiating that template again. All right, so to instantiate the template, all I do is go over to my template library. I take the metric or the folder, in this case the metric that I want. I drag it across over to the model and place it where I want it in the model. And then I get a workbench screen that allows me to say, I want 5 instances of this, and I would like to have the area metadata set to 1, the panel metadata set to a numeric value of 1, or a model attribute of 1 is the name, the circuit breaker 1, and so on. And then I preview it, and I instantiate it just like that. So really quite an easy process to do. I don't want to, it's because I did the work up front by creating the template. The amount of time that I save if I'm doing 5 of these or 10 of these or 15 of these or 100 of these is really quite substantial. Okay, so now that we understand how we got here, now we've deployed the model, all of our live data is right, but if we look at our measures, we'll see that we need to backfill all of these. And so I was able to do the backfill by just right-clicking on the metric and saying, hey, backfill this area. The flow calculation engine, the data engine is in the back working. It has now calculated all of the backfills, and I have data from February 1st up to March 1st, essentially. And that has now been calculated and written to the Flow database, and it's available for me to visualize in Flow or to push to another application. Maybe there's a cloud environment like Databricks or Snowflake, AWS or Azure that I need to send this data to. So taking a look at our energy 15-minute totals, there's the 15-minute aggregated totals, and there's the original raw totalizer tag. So every 15 minutes, that has gone in and taken the change in the totalizer tag, and it has calculated and output the total amount of energy that was used in that 15-minute window. All right, so now if we examine the power factor ratios metrics, and we did a 1 hour average. Let's go back to February and we'll take a look at that. And there's our 1 hour average. We can see every hour what our average power factor ratio was. If we want to look at what that 24-hour moving average looks like. Now, again, all of this is recorded in Flow's database because we've already backfilled and calculated this when we deployed the template. All right, so every hour we have calculated the 24-hour average of that power factor ratio. And now I'm going to bring over the 8-hour projection. So at this point in time, we are saying that 8 hours from now, it is likely that that power factor ratio will be this, based on the previous 24 hours. And so that's the value of a projection, is that in the now moment, you're using previous history to tell you what it is most likely to be 8 hours from now. Okay. So from here, let's say that there's something I want to maybe add to the template. I've deployed the template. I've got all 5 power meters sitting out here, but I've decided that I want to add something to the definition of a power meter. I can come back over into my templates and I can create a new KPI or measure or event. In this case, I'm going to create a new tag that represents the average of all of my voltage. I'm just going to drag the tags over to the retrieval section that I want to include. So I've got AB, AC, and BC voltage, and now we'll just do a simple average. As you've heard me talk about before, we're not storing the raw data inside of Flow. That raw data is sitting still in the historian. I'm just creating right now, I've created now a memory tag that will function like it was raw data whenever it's called. And we're going to call it every 15 minutes and ask it to output an average of the raw data for the last 15 minutes. And then we will average that into a 15-minute measure that we then store. So I've added that. Now I need to release the template. That's releasing the changes I've made. And then I come over to my template, or to my model, I should say, and I choose to receive that update. So the blue dots over there on the models metrics tell me that there is a new version of this template. Now I have said, yes, I'd like that new version for the first power meter, but I haven't accepted it for the other 4 power meters, and that's why those are still blue. But a recursive update will then say, okay, now go get them for all of the remaining power meters. It's a way for me to preview the change before I accept the change for everything. All right, well, I hope that this has been helpful for you to see how our templates work. This is the base example of a template, meaning really just the lowest level use of this feature. In the next video, I will show you how you can create multiple base templates and then work them together into a expansion of a definition of your model. So for instance, I might want to have a circuit breaker. A circuit breaker is going to have a child of a power meter. I'm going to create a panel model, and circuit breakers are going to be children of the panel. Panels are children of an area, and so on. And so I can have a lot of variability in those templates. I can also have different flavors of those templates. Maybe I have a generic circuit breaker. It has a position and a trigger. But then depending on the brand of circuit breaker I'm using, maybe it's a Siemens or a Square D, I'm going to have a different flavor of that. So it's very easy to do that inside of Flow with our templates. I look forward to showing you that in the next video. And until then, if you have any questions, please reach out to us, info@flow-software.com. Thanks.